Ready?
Yep.
All right, welcome everybody. This is our briefing of the Mason County Commission for October 11th, 2021. We're going to go ahead and go right into a interview for the Thurston Area Agency on Aging Advisory Board interview. Out here. Allison Voss. I don't see her. Mackenzie, are you going to be calling her on the phone, or is Allison Voss on the line now? If you are, Allison, please.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. So you're A. Hi, Allison.
Yes, I am. I'm inept.
No, you're perfect. It's fine. I should have known that from the A. So welcome, Allison. What we're going to do here is this is just an informal briefing, an opportunity for the commission to get to know you and to ask you a few questions. There's going to be different questions from each of the commission, and there is no right answer. And of course, brevity is always appreciated, just being spot on with your answers, but there is no right answer, so you don't have to go on and on. And if you feel you have something that needs to be said, or if you have any questions, you will be given that opportunity at the very end. So with that being said, let's see. Okay, so Commissioner Trask, do you mind starting with the first one? I will do the second one. And Commissioner Shsp, if you would do number 3, then Trask again for 4 and me for 5, please.
Absolutely. Hi, Allison.
Good morning.
What do you see as the function of this advisory board?
I see this advisory board as addressing and projecting the needs of an aging population as well as disabled people here in Mason County.
And why do you want to sit on this advisory board?
I've served for nonprofits all of my adult life, and this seems to be a natural progression. I'm now of the age, and I have also worked with and managed adults all of my adult life, starting at the age of 30. So it's come to me to recognize and address in work and volunteer situations older populations, which of course I'm now joining. So.
Allison, the council meets the first Wednesday of each month at the Area Agency on Aging office in Olympia from approximately 9:30 in the morning until 12 noon. Currently, it's being done via Zoom. Will that be a problem for you?
No, time is not a problem. Zoom, I'm learning. I'm a little inept, but you know, life goes on, and I need to learn it. So.
Thank you.
Allison, do you have any conflicts of interest with the mission of this advisory board?
No, I'm retired. I live simply. I have no conflicts in terms of interest or investments or work. No.
Great.
So now again, we really appreciate you coming on and talking to us for a minute. Just gives us an opportunity to at least have a little bit of knowledge of who you are and how you sound. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask of us?
Not of the commissioners, and I've known Glenn Harper, who's the chair of the advisory committee through the Mason County Senior Activities Center for the last few years. So I'm fairly well aware of what goes on at AAA, except I haven't received any information other than what I've been able to look at online.
Well, and also Commissioner Trask serves on there also. So if you do have any questions, she'd have a little better knowledge of it than we would as a commission if you have any other questions regarding to the organization itself.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we want to thank you very much. We will be discussing it afterwards, and we'll be letting you know here shortly if a decision is made, okay?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining us today. Have a great day.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to a discussion point right now. Allison has signed off, but would you like to talk about it now or wait till another time, Commissioner Trask?
Oh, I'm ready to make a decision.
Okay, I'm interested in hearing your decision.
She sounds amazing, and she already knows, I mean, to call it AAA, which is so much easier than saying area agency on aging, Lewis-Mason-Thurston. So it sounds like, looking over her application also, looks like she's got a passion for this, and we all understand that we're all getting to that. Well, I am definitely getting to that age where they're significant, but I don't know. I think she would be great.
Commissioner Shsp?
Yeah, absolutely. Great nonprofit background in her work. Definitely would be supportive of appointing Allison to the AAA board.
Okay, would we like to wait or do it on our next meeting?
Let's see, you mean in 2 weeks? Sorry, we have a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can, I don't know how you are on the board. If you're in dire need of, make sure you have that person. I'm okay with having it as an addition to the agenda. But it's not necessary.
Yeah, well, we could always, looking at the calendar here, we can always use new members for sure. But if we want, and if Diane thinks it's okay, we could wait until the 26th to put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I would suggest you just wait, because I don't think there's any urgency. I know that the board does have a couple of vacancies, but I do know there's at least a few from Mason County on it.
Right. Yeah, we have an amazing committee. She's going to really enjoy being a part of that committee. It's one of my favorite ones too. So yeah, I think that we could wait until the 26th. That way we can get the letter off to her, make sure that this is what she really would like to do, and then we can proceed.
You comfortable with that, Commissioner Shsp?
I am.
Okay, that's what we will do. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
All right, next up, 910 is District Court Judge Steele.
Now look at that, right on time too.
Good morning, Your Honor. There you
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
We've asked, and I know it's been such a long time since we last spoke, but we've been on essentially taking a look at our department and are asking the commissioners to allow for reorganization of it, as far as primarily changes in the court administrator position. Make it essentially a chief executive officer. And that would entail a change in the pay scale. I believe it would top out at,
Oh, you're breaking up for some reason, Your Honor.
my computer decided it needed to tell me to update.
Oh, I've been there.
Hopefully it's up wanting to update itself and not have me update myself. But essentially what's been going on is the scope of the job has been expanding. And I do have Patsy on the line. I may ask her to give some more specific details of it. But prior to the pandemic, prior to my arrival here, but it really accelerated into the pandemic. And again, I don't want this to be any way compromising any other departments, but the difference in district court is we're all inclusive, and all the functions are done by one department. So we have one person who is managing a probation department, one person who is court staff, and one person who's managing as far as our budgeting and working the numbers, working the invoices, that type of thing. And things are just simply expanded. For example, one of the biggies, language assistance program. Language assistance program used to be something that was done primarily by Superior Court for everybody, but that split off in 2019 to go strictly to each court managing their own, and it falls on our current court administrator. During the pandemic, we've had to a lot of changes, and quite frankly, when I say I take responsibility or credit for all of it, I'm pulling your leg. A good portion of it has been done by our court administrator, and it's going to continue. The courts, I'm pretty confident, are not going to be going back to pre-pandemic practices exclusively. And when I say that, I'm speaking of the remote hearings, stay on top of the technology, which means we need someone here to interface with our IT department, also with potential vendors, to make sure we have what we need to make things function. And that really is falling on our current court administrator. Language access program includes making sure we have interpreters in languages we need, but it also deals with sure that we get the reports done needed in order to get the reimbursement we're entitled to, which I believe. Another thing I don't like when people forget to silence their cell phones, like myself. State of Washington, they can wait. Actually, do you mind if I mute myself and see what it is, just in case?
Yes, please, go ahead. Frank, that gives me an opportunity. Are you on? Frank, are you on? Hi, Frank.
Yes.
I don't
I'm
have,
here.
I don't, in my thing, I don't have your office's recommendation on this.
So at this time, our recommendation is to, well, if you'd like me to come forward with a recommendation, I can do that.
Okay, so after his honor is done there, I don't know how we're going to look at it at this point, but usually when we have something like this, we also have a recommendation or a paper from HR with comments and stuff in regards to it.
Okay, I can follow up with that and bring that forward next week.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for, wait, Your Honor, are you back?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Frank. We're going to go ahead and go back to the judge. Please continue, Your Honor.
Thank you.
While you were off, just to let you know, I asked Frank as the head of HR if he had any papers or documents for consideration or recommendations from that department. And he said he'd get that to us in a week or so here. Just to keep you up from what we're discussing. So please go ahead and continue.
All right, and I do apologize. State Patrol need to get a warrant, but we have a pro tem here today, so pass the buck, so to speak.
No problem, Your Honor.
Another part of it is, as far as work with the CARES Act, and again, I will tell you, particularly in 2020, it was a team effort. I did my part, but again, the judge's role in a court obviously is the direct providing of the service of the court, as opposed to
We lost you again, Your Honor. You have to repeat that last part. We lost you again.
I hear when I bend down, this microphone doesn't pick me up.
Yeah.
I said my role is more to I hate to make it sound like a commodity or a product, but basically to do what the court's supposed to do, and obviously oversight with management, but it needs someone who can stay on top of things, and that's essentially what the job has grown into. It's more than just simply hiring people, finding their workplaces and training all that. Oh, she does that too. And I apologize because I kind of got off my schedule. We have 3 budgets that are being managed. I may have already mentioned that. We have the court's budget itself. We have the probation department's budget that's also managed directly by our administrator. And we also have the trial improvement fund, which is administered. Plus, when we deal with it, it's having the grant fundings, like we were lucky, and I don't know if it was luck, but in 2020, we got about 107,000 from funding from the state to some things that we needed, like a new system, recording system. And part of it comes down to is researching what we need and what's out there and what have you. She's also our interface with the Court Administrators Association and dealing with those issues as well. And the situation is, like I said, the job has just simply grown. Really has expanded during the COVID era. So we are asking, we spoke last week, and I didn't really intend to go through it again. Why we want a deputy administrator position.
Yeah. Oh, we
Well,
lost you again there, Your Honor.
all right. That means, yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So, Your Honor, can I make a request of you? If I can, I appreciate all the work you put into this. I would really appreciate if I could get a copy of your current organizational structure and the current job description for what you have there now.
To you today.
Thank you, sir.
Some of that was sent over, but we'll make sure it gets sent over.
Sir, we need to invest a little bit more money into your set, into your headset and microphone.
The microphone, I can hear you fine.
I'm sure we can't with you, especially as you said, when you look down, it does seem to go away. So odd as that is.
Down, it's one of my many faults.
Yeah.
So anyway, I apologize about that, but there was a time when even getting a webcam was like, you had to almost climb into the high Himalayas to find one. So
I understand.
You may have to update this too.
So do you mind if I ask the commissioner some questions regarding this position? Are you through with your overall?
Well, I'm going to rely mostly on the written, and I do have Patsy here because I think she's going to be in a better position.
Okay.
To answer specifics about what she's doing.
Wonderful. Commissioner Shsp, let me start with you on this one. As you know, we're in the middle of, for the public out there, we are in the middle of budget. We're in the making decisions here coming up regarding some of these issues. So we may or may not want to make any decisions of moving things forward today as much as considering them in the overall budget for the public out there, but it is possible to make decisions today to move it onto an agenda. So with that being said, Commissioner Shsp, do you have any comments or ideas?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Nolan. Yeah, so I think that would be my one point is I'm not sure how different this is than what we're already discussing as part of the budget, except for expediting the timeline. We still have a little bit of work to do on the budget, as you are probably all aware. And so, I'm going to put this in appreciate you sending it over, put it in the maybe file as we continue to figure out what we're doing with the budget. And then, that wouldn't necessarily preclude us from making a decision to put this, in place by the end of this year. But I just think it would be more proper to consider it in the context of the 2022 budget as you brought it forward as part of that anyway.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Trask.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd also like to maybe wait until we get our new HR person as well. I think that including them in including the new person in the conversation would be good. But yeah, I think making this a part of the budget talks is a very good idea.
And I would agree with that, but I would like, with a caveat, I would still like to continue. We have somebody in place at this moment, though, in HR that we need to get a breakdown, as we have with every other position that is looking to change, or even this, because some of the descriptions almost sounds like a reclass still. I'd like to just have a breakdown from HR and their discussions regarding the position and the information. And I'd like to still continue with that. I think he said next week. Are the commission okay with that if he's to bring that forward?
Yeah, that would be fine. I think I also noticed that it would be a +1 FTE. So if we could maybe get a little bit more description on that as well, that would be great.
Yep.
So and I think along those lines, Judge and Patsy, this is essentially your request from the 2022 budget, just requesting to have it start now versus start January 1. Is that correct? Or what's different about this request than that?
This request is more of the court administrator's position. There was nothing in the 2022 budget regarding the court administrator's position and the increase in responsibilities. The 2022 budget request was for the deputy administrator that is in the briefing material stating that that would start next year, because I know we're in the process of that budget. And that was presented in the 2022 budget. And so that even in the briefing, I mentioned that, or the judge and I discussed having that start in 2022. Mine would be the only adjustment for the 2021 budget. And the increase in FTE would be that deputy, the chief deputy.
Gotcha.
And so again, that's one of the reasons why I'd still like to have that briefing from HR with the breakdown of the positions and perhaps reclass, or however we're going to look at that other thing moving forward with our budget. Are you guys comfortable with asking Frank to bring that forward?
Yeah, I think that's definitely appropriate on the court administrator piece.
Thank you. Commissioner Trask? Yes. So Frank, if you don't mind, please make that happen for our next briefing.
Is there anything else you need from us?
Just let you know we appreciate you and thank you. Commissioners, do you have anything for them?
Oh, thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up is Community Services with Dave Windom. Good morning, Dave.
Morning. For the second time. So, good morning, and pretty light stuff for us today. Just going to do a quick snapshot on DCD Finances. So, you've got the attachment to the announcement there with you. We've got four quick graphs. The first one comparing 19, 20, 21. The years before that were pretty consistent. Things got weird as we got out of 2019 and into 2020, 21. As you can see in 2020, we had a really good March, April timeframe. And typically we do see bumps in that March, April timeframe as people are coming in, getting their building permits, getting ready for the summer. And obviously in 2020, that's when we had the lockdown. So you see the dark blue line drops way down in 2020, but we did come back from that. If you look at it as over time, 2021 so far has been a good year for us financially in DCD. We've stayed pretty much above the zero balance line. And we are coming into the time of the year when we typically do coast and get below zero. But we're coming at it from a better place. We have, and we'll bring this back later, but we have fewer permits coming through, but the permits we're getting are a lot of the commercial permits. So the dollar value assigned to those is keeping the dollars up as well. So even though we have fewer permits, our revenues continue to look pretty good. And that's driven a lot by the activity in Belfair. So that's looking good. Any questions on that one?
Yes, more of a request. Several years ago, I think Commissioner Shsp was here. We had some issues with the state auditor in regards to accumulating money in DCD, and we needed to make sure that was expended, the stuff that was put in there. Is it possible, appreciating this graph right here, is it possible to have that broke up over 3 years, we'll say, and sent to us also, please?
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Commissioner Shsp, were you here when that occurred?
I don't think I was.
Okay.
To be honest, yeah.
Would have been right before you then, because we did run into a little bit of a problem that they didn't want us holding too much revenue there.
Well, my last conversation with the auditor, state auditor, about that was what he was saying is that monies that are accrued from fees and services couldn't be taken over to general fund. They had to stay within the DCD. But I will pull that for you, Commissioner, and get it to you.
Thank you.
And then revenue and expense going down through that, you see we did a pretty good job of keeping our expenses below the budget line, and revenues have been looking pretty good. So it's just another graphical representation of where we're at. September was down on both those things. Expenses were down, and then revenue was down as well. So, and like I said, typically in October, November, December, one of the things we do see generally is that expenses go up, but our revenues go down. So that won't be unanticipated when we see that. Okay. Moving on through revenue, January to September. So a year-to-year comparison. 2020 obviously was down, and I think a lot of that was the lockdown. We had that that time period when people weren't coming in to get permits, and then construction was not happening. That brought our revenue down for 2020. 2021, I mean, we bounced back very well from that. So revenues look really good this year. And then coming down to the next one, just kind of outlines where we get our revenues from. So different than public health has, so many different funding sources. Community development really has two major funding sources that are certainly tied to the economy. That's licenses and permits, government goods and services. So that's permits and fees and inspection fees, those sorts of things. The intergovernmental piece down at the bottom is a smaller piece, but that reflects money that was spent in doing the Shoreline Master Plan grant and in the RIA 1415 grant. And both of those grants are done now. So that piece will be coming out as we go forward. You won't be seeing much of that in there. So really, that's kind of where we're at. As we go look towards the end of the year, I think we're looking really good. It's been a good year this year. And building, like I said, the individual homes are down a little bit, but commercial is up. So that's all looking very good overall. So just any questions you might have.
Commissioners, any questions?
Not for me.
So before we go on with that, Frank, again, I don't know, do you remember the issue we had several years back? Now, I want to make clear, I don't expect we're going to have that issue again this year. I believe it was last year, the year before. We did not throw money into their fund to the tune of several $100,000. And with that ought to make sure that we don't have that issue again. But do you remember any of that, Frank?
So my recollection is that there were, I believe, 2 years where we may not have sent money to the health department. I believe it was about $370,000.
That's what I was thinking.
But I don't recall there being any issue from the state auditor's office in regards to that. No. Leo, can you help me there maybe?
It was in regards to us not spending money that they had, not us giving money to them or not giving money to them. Leo?
I think what it was if I may.
Well, hold on, let's let Leo go first here. Go ahead, Leo.
Are you talking about the restricted funds for DCD?
Yeah, where we had a couple of years enough.
So the restricted revenue from DCD, they can. I don't think there's a limit on how much they can accumulate. It just has to be spent for DCD. And on the financial statements, I segregate that as restricted just for DCD. Yeah, from my knowledge, I don't think there's a limit, and I don't think there's a time frame.
I think there was a warning from them several years back.
Yeah, I think the warning was it just can't be used for general purposes. So like current expense can't use it. It just has to be used for, the specific, DCD purposes.
Okay, thank you, Leo. Dave, go ahead. Sorry.
That was my recollection as well. And the other thing that we talked about with the auditor is if you are accumulating more, you need to maybe look at your fee schedule.
Okay.
So, and that was just a comment that they had.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may ask, so is the question in regards to public health donation, or so payments to DCD were never planned for? The dollars I spoke about were monies dedicated to supplementing public health.
Okay, and I know we didn't.
Not DCD.
Okay, I know that we had expended that. We had them expend the money from their own fund instead of adding to it.
Correct.
Okay.
And that was exactly the issue. Their ending fund balance was high enough to cover their costs through 2019, I believe, and 2020.
All right. What else you got, Dave?
That's pretty much it. We've been working on COVID and other things, and you were part of that discussion this morning. So if there are any questions around COVID, I'd be glad to take those. And otherwise, we can make this a little shorter.
Commissioners, I got something I'd like just to throw out to consider in regards to COVID. I asked Dave about some numbers this morning. You know, we have these monies that come in to help the community in different ways when it comes to COVID. One of the things that I hear, and I'm sure you hear the same thing, is accessibility to the testing. I'd like for us to consider, Dave has already bought quite a few for the county. He's bought 5,000 here recently for the county. Some of them are at a cost of $13 a piece. That's this information I got from this morning. It's not because I'm brilliant. I asked these questions. With that, I'd like for us to consider purchasing a bunch of them that we can provide to the households in our county. Each one has 5 tests in it. At least so many, you know, within the community. It wouldn't have to be as great a number because we can make it, they can get them at request or something like that. I just like you to consider it. It'd be a great gift that we can provide to the community itself if we can provide them with some tests that they can have it on hand. I think it'd be a good investment also because if they know they're sick early, they stay home early, and that can help bring our numbers down. So I'm just asking you to please consider us doing that for the county.
I would be supportive of that. I'd like to see maybe Dave bring forward a proposal on it about how it would be managed and how people could get access to it, and you know, some of those details. But I would certainly be interested in learning a little bit more about it, and I think it's a worthwhile idea. Wonderful. Commissioner Trask, how do you feel about what I just brought up?
Oh, no, I think it's a great idea. I'd be curious to know which kit is used. Is it the kit with 5 individual tests in it, or would it be the vial? I think it, you know, depending on which test we use, whichever one it would be, I would say quickest and easiest.
Well, we did an experiment actually on that. So we had Jacob test himself last week, and then with the kit where he sent off the test, and he had the results in his email in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, I personally, I like the test that had the quickest response. You don't have to send it off or anything like that. I think that would be easier and more accepted, I think.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that had 5 and cost $13. That's why I agree with you. I think having the stuff right in their hand makes a difference to get tested. And like I said, I think it'd be a great investment if they're actually in the homes already. Even if you think about it, you feel sick, so you go walk into Walmart to get a test, you know, putting others at risk, where you can do it at home in the privacy of your own home, sit there, be quiet, and leave everybody else alone is a benefit.
Yeah.
It was the cost that was scary. So Dave, if you don't mind, if you've heard from the commission, could you please put together a proposal of what that would look like at different levels? Because if we were to provide them for each household that we have within the county, that's probably going to be in the form of maybe 30,000, 25,000. If we do it at a request level, then we're probably talking closer to 10. I'd like to see what it looks like all the way around and see if there's a discount for large numbers. Probably not, because you just bought 5,000. You probably didn't get a discount. So
they would give us another, I think, 50 cents break on a 10,000 order.
Well, 50.
Okay. The mail-in tests have the advantage in that they're free. I get them from the state.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get some of them also, because those, if we get large amounts of those, we could pass those out to the schools or through the senior centers, the churches. There's a lot of ways we can get it out there. We've done this before with the masks. Remember when we first started hand delivering all those masks? I remember. So please put together a proposal for both, but I'd like to see us actually get them to their households instead of having them come out to get them. So okay, thank you very much, Dave. Thank you, commissioners. Let's go ahead and
Dave, real quick.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. We're just getting more information on House Bill 1477. That's the regional health office. So if you and I could get together and talk about this pretty soon. It looks like everybody on the committee member list is there. There are no commissioners. There's no local representatives.
Yeah,
So let's talk about that and see what we can do.
I asked to be part of the committee and I was voted off the island. So
I'm not surprised.
So yeah, we need to talk about that. And Dr. Gardner is here, Dave, and she should be in probably around 10 o'clock. So after we meet here, we may come over and stick our noses in over there.
Great.
Please do. Anything else for Dave? Dave, just a little pat on the back. Different issues and things come up, and I got to tell you, I cannot explain how much I appreciate your staff, Alex and Kel and anybody else that we call. The ability to get back to us, get things done is what we dreamed of when I first became a commissioner. And so your staff needs a pat on the back. I think the other commissioners agree with that too, as we're starting to gain. So please, I saw one head shake. Commissioner Shsp, would you agree with this also?
No, not at all. I think they're terrible.
Well, with that, I think they deserve an actual pat on the back. If you could let them know that this commission sends them a pat on the back and a thank you for their customer service and their willingness to jump in and actually get things done and help these people individually.
Will do.
Thank you. All right. Next up, Juvenile Court, Jim Matson. We are a little bit early. Is he not on?
I don't see him.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and take our break, and we will come back at 9:50. Frank, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move past Juvenile Court Jim Matson, and we're going to move into support services with Frank Pinter, please.
Sure, thank you, Commissioners. The first item is an update on the jail study. KMB had proposed 3 questions to the commission to answer in order for them to be able to complete their report. The briefing summary identifies the 3 questions. One, they had a question regarding the analysis around a $35 million project. Is the board looking for them to provide detailed analysis around a $35 million project?
How much money do we still have with them that we have to fulfill? Do we have money with them we have to fulfill?
That would be an extra cost because that wasn't in their original program.
Personally, I don't think we could afford to do this again with them. If anything, I'd want to look at other options.
I'm sure it would be minimal, but it would be an extra cost.
Yeah. But again, the stuff they'll bring forward in comparison with what they've done before, I don't think they understand their client, but that's my opinion. Commissioner Trask, we'll let you go first.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting an update from them. I think that we've invested in them already. So I would like to see what their recommendation is on this. And then I know that there's been discussion with another group. I don't know much about that group at all.
So that's Helix. They're the architectural group that has worked on Building 10 for us. And they have a proposal that they can do regarding a plan to view the construction here in town on site next to the existing building. But they're not in a position at this point to move forward with it as a formal proposal. They're still working out some of the details.
Frank, would you please share KMB's role in Building 10 and what the costs, what their recommendations were, and what the costs actually were when we moved to the other company?
I'd have to go back and double check figures, but don't hold me to these numbers. I believe their original proposal was for Building 10 to run about $10 to $13 million. And we're into it at this point for something just south of 3 million. With this next phase that's going in, it'll be just over $3 million.
That's why I've felt this way from the beginning and still do as we're moving forward.
Yeah, they had two other questions. The second question was, of the 3 sites they did review, which was the preference of the board? And then there's the question in regards to the parcel that the county is looking at to purchase next to the jail. Do we want them to take a look at that parcel as well, the one from PUD 3?
Now, is that request coming from KMB or Helix? Or both?
AMB.
Mr. Shitty, what are you thinking?
So, well, first off, I mean, I think we have a commitment that we made to KMB that we have to honor. And there's a work product that these are the outstanding questions on that, I believe KMB owes us as part of that contract that we need to get fulfilled because of the financial and contractual commitment that we made to them. I think that's the bigger part of this that I'm interested in is the needs element of it. Siting and design and all those things are very preliminary and can be worked out into the future once we know exactly what it is our community needs from a jail perspective. But I am kind of concerned about the conversation here with another potential contractor. And I don't know if we need to have this conversation in an executive session, or I don't know what the nature of who and how that was all led and how deep they've gone and what kind of exposure there might be to the county because of those conversations happening outside of this process. I don't recall being involved in any discussions or giving any kind of head nod approval to have a concurrent type study going on. If that was something that was happening, I'd be really concerned about that. So I'll tick off the 3 questions that are outstanding from KMB, and then let's have the other conversation as well. So I think, if we want to have something in the $35 million range, I think, let's take a look at that. And I think 2 and 3 are related in that, we have a new site potentially to put into the mix, and I think that site absolutely needs to be evaluated. And so I think that gives us an opportunity to really have a thorough vetting of the options that are in front of us.
And what this does allow is for KMB to conclude their report and finalize it.
Well, will it cost more? I thought I asked you a little earlier if it's going to cost more on the for this other option, or if we're still, if they still owed us work, or if
There's still work to be completed, and Bill, you're
Yes.
on if you can kind of address the additional costs.
Yeah, so we do have a final deliverable, which is contractually what we are to owe you, which is again going to assemble everything and all the decision points, the documentation that we've done over the course of the last essentially 2 years into a final report and document. One thing that we can do is to actually indicate which most clients want is really their preferred solution, which is then documented and highlighted within the report. But if you are still like, well, all of this is still on the table, we don't really have a preferred solution, we just won't direct it that way within the report. So that's some direction that we need to be able, that we wanted to be able to have was, did you have a preferred option based off of the sites that we evaluated, the information that we have gathered, as well as some of the cost modeling and the financial analysis that has been done. But if that decision has not been made, we'll leave it open-ended. So that was one question is, how do you want the report to read? And as far as evaluating the new site, we could do that. That's not a very extensive or expensive process to be able to do. And since we've already evaluated these other sites at that level, we indicated that we would be evaluating multiple sites, that we can do that within the the scope of the current contract and essentially be at the level that we do, analyze what are the development requirements, what are the offsets, what's really the buildable area, will it actually fit onto that site, that type of thing. So if that is something that you want to be able to be done, we can definitely do that within the terms of the existing contract. So that's kind of where we kind of lie right now, is how do we want to kind of wrap everything up, or do we want to leave it open? The financial analysis that PFIC did for a $35 million project, that is a little bit bigger issue. If you wanted us to be able to go back and say, okay, what are you going to get for 35 million? That's a more exhaustive bit of a process to be able to say, okay, well, what's your priorities? What would go into it? Is 35 million a ground up new project? Is that addition renovation to the existing facility? That type of thing. So that's going to would take a lot longer and more of an effort to kind of try to figure out what's within the 35 million. But that's why I asked, because I think the value of that was somewhat arbitrary based off of what you thought the county could afford based off the current revenues that are in place, if I remember the conversation correctly. But there was really nothing that was, okay, what is in that 35 million? And that could be something that could be done be done in a different study altogether, I guess. But it was just a question that we wanted to be able to ask, since we have some of our documentation or information with regard to financial analysis that we've done in the past. We just wanted to know, how do you want us to approach that in a report?
Frank, on the PUD property, last you and I discussed, you were saying that there was some concerns that you were going to look at. Did you ever look at those concerns on water? And
Yeah, so there is a stream that runs through that parcel, and the building department is looking at what that might impact that parcel's ability to develop, how that might impact that. And we haven't gotten answers back from them yet.
so just so the commissioners know, I still have not signed anything because of that issue that popped up. So commissioners, what do you want to do?
I'd like to move ahead with KMB. I think it's important to see. I'd like to figure out the new site to see if that's doable. And as far as the 35 million project, I'd still like to take a look at that. I think KMB is a very good company, and they obviously know how to build gels. We've been through a few of them. And we don't need the Taj Mahal, but we do. There are certain requirements that we have to abide by. So I'd like to move ahead. I'll see what we can do.
Bill, do we know a cost yet of what that would look like?
Of analyzing a $35 million solution?
Yes.
I have not. I've not put anything together. That's why I want to have a discussion here. So we can evaluate about really what that would be. Again, a big part of that is going to be talking with the sheriff and the correctional staff, really about that priority and what that would be. I think and also a question for this group is going to be analyzing it, or is the hope and the goal to analyze it two different ways. One is being a $35 million renovation and modernization of the existing facility, or what can you get in a new facility for a certain budget?
I think those are two very important issues, and I think we owe it to our people, our taxpayers, to take a look at that.
Commissioner Shooty, I think you said this most of the same thing, but I'll ask you anyway.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I think, let's get an idea of what the cost would be on evaluating a $35 million project. But, as I've said from the beginning, we're only one part of this. We're only one leg of this stool. And so, I'd be hard pressed to even spend $35 million if it wasn't a facility that helped improve our corrections facilities issues. And so at some point, something isn't necessarily better than nothing. There's a lot that we would need to think about in terms of what a project of that scale would actually do to improve things for the criminal justice system. So I would be interested in evaluating it, but also really think that the conversation needs to be driven by what the actual needs of the community are. And we need to put our heads together and figure that part of it out, which is why I want to get Bill and his team all the information they need to complete the study that we've been at for here a couple of years. So
Do you want them to come back with a price estimate for the consideration of the 35 million?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have them under contract already. I think they do good work. I think they understand criminal justice facilities, and I want to honor that.
Okay. Does that answer your questions, Frank?
Yep.
Okay.
That provides direction for us. Under the current contract, if we can get information, we'll reach out to Frank to be able to get information on the WCC site so we can start that analysis. I think we have direction that at least we'll be able to kind of wrap up the information that we currently have as far as the current study in the report, and then I'll put together a scope of work for analyzing and working with county staff and sheriff staff with regard to scoping, analyzing, and determining what a $35 million project might look like, as well as obviously a part of that is going to be determining really is that meeting needs of the community and of the correctional department.
Okay, and just for clarification, we still have an outstanding issue on that PUD property to establish whether or not it's even doable for us, let alone for using for another thing other than what we had originally looked at. So Frank, about how long before we think we'll get an answer back on that property and its feasibility?
I know Kelly and Alex have recently been out to the parcel. I would suspect a week.
Okay, thank you. So now, before we do anything, I'm going to ask that Mackenzie, if you don't mind, could you make sure that those that are available for or needed for the executive session may be in consideration of doing it earlier, because we seem to be moving through. Jim Matson, I know you're on the line. You're just going to jump in and say, because we were not able to connect, we already went ahead and looked at your project and agreed to move it forward. So we will not be briefing on that any further today, just to let you know. So appreciate you, Jim. And
yeah, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. There was only 3 additional words from the contract that I brought forward to you guys a few weeks ago. It was just a change in language. So thank you very much.
all right, thank you. All right, Frank, what else you got?
The next 2 items are a real estate offer on parcel lot number 4 at the Public Works Building. And it is for $730,148. And the contract was included in the briefing documentation.
And to the commission, there was nothing in this contract that was outstanding or weird or different. Matter of fact, it was actually scarily simplistic.
Commissioner, it looked like Bill might have had one last question or
Bill?
comment.
I just want to make sure I wasn't needed for anything. Otherwise, I will go.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon, Frank.
Thanks, Bill.
So they had nothing special on anything except for the feasibility, and that's not special. It's just they're asking for time to look at, 90 days to look at what issues they may have with it. The only stuff that's in there that's different is stuff that we are asking to put in, explaining, who would do the escrow, that it's a title insurance policy, treasurer's deed, and the et cetera. But other than that, it's a very simple, straightforward offer.
Do we know anything about the prospective buyer?
The only thing that I saw, because I didn't look at it that much, I saw they've been in business for, was 11, 12 years, Frank?
And they're local. They're out of Olympia.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure we can make determinations based on that.
Who they are.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm just curious to know if anybody knew anything about them.
Believe me, I'm curious about a lot of it. I'm curious what they want to do. I have nothing on there to show any of that.
Yep, they're local. They're in Olympia. They've been around for 10 to 12 years.
And this is the asking price, right?
Yes, it is. And they do property investments.
So they're offering asking price.
Which of the parcels are these?
Number 4.
But can you explain which one that is? There's no map here.
I don't recall.
Okay, that's fine.
It'll take me a second here.
I can look it up too. That's fine.
Interesting enough, if it was that amount, if I remember correctly, that would have made it a road frontage parcel.
I believe so, but I'm checking.
Because I think the other ones were in the 6s. It's been a while since we looked at that.
Yes, it's on the frontage. It's in the middle.
Okay. So it's next to the other ones that are under contract.
Yes.
Now, I'm just talking as the old dog. We don't have to accept because it is not a straight contract where it's clear we give you this, we give you that. I'm just saying that the optional clauses are simple optional clauses without any weird things thrown in. It is just a housekeeping. Funds evidence is just that they will show the evidence of funds. Title contingency, they want to make sure the title is good. And then feasibility is the one thing where it's 90 days and they can leave any time in the middle of that for any reason that they choose.
Sounds good.
Yeah, good with me.
So I guess we're moving forward then. You want me to sign the intention, the offer?
Yeah.
All right. That's what we'll do, Frank. Now, just so you know, commissioners, our realtor always takes care of us to make sure, and I should actually read it to you just to give you, so in case you ever get worried or anything. He actually puts in the offer that he counters back that says that the agreement is contingent upon Mason County's commission approval of this purchase and sales agreement in an open public meeting. So otherwise for our hearings and stuff, it's still subject to approval in the meeting, the actual deal. So this is just agreeing to move forward.
So do we need to have a hearing on this? I don't know that we have in the past, but.
We do need a hearing to actually the final sale, and that's, I wanted to ask, does the board want to get that hearing set in tomorrow's agenda so we can hold it on the 26th of this month?
No, I would not want to do it until after the contingency and everything's figured out and we're ready to actually sell the property, because at this point, you got 90 days that it would go away. I'd hate to have a hearing for no reason.
Okay.
At the end before closing date, which after the 90 days of the feasibility, days we have on that.
It's into January, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is January 1st, so that's interesting. The 90 days exceeds the closing date. So we'd have to have our realtor extend the closing date until after the 90 days. Or we change the expiration of the feasibility to meet the closing date.
What closing date do they have in there, Commissioner?
1/1.
January 1.
Okay.
Usually you should close your feasibility before that. You know, I will be honest, I have one worry about this, but that doesn't change how I feel whether we should accept or not, that this may just be, if there's any connection with the other parcels, a way to lock up that property, because with the feasibility, they can leave at any time with no reason at all. But it is what it is.
I might suggest that in signing it, the contract or the agreement, we change the piece of the the closing date to 90 days from the day we sign it.
Okay, I'd be okay with that, commissioners.
For me.
Okay, let's make that happen.
Thank you, commissioners. Next, we have
I just wanted to
Diane,
ask her,
go ahead.
so do we need to put the permission for Commissioner Netherland to sign the purchase and sell agreement on tomorrow's agenda, just so there's official action to do that first step?
Actually, that was done years back when the commission had given me permission to be the signer for these. But you know, we can do it again. It doesn't bother me, but that's why I've been doing it all this time. It was
Right. I know that
Yeah.
that's how we've handled it, but I just figured we did that individually as these parcels come up.
we can. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
I think that's a good idea.
let's
Now, remember, if we do that, though, and we change it, that means that every offer, every parcel that comes in, because we're changing how we do business, we're doing away with what we had said that we would do years ago. I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me at all. Just know that if we do it that way, we have to do that for all the parcels. So each time, anytime we have an adjustment or a change to any of the contracts, you know, the intent to sell, or basically, we're going to have a meeting each time. Because if you do that with one, I think that's a precedence for all of them.
Right. So you're saying in the past that we've just let you sign the intent to sell, and then once we have agreed upon terms, that's when we set the hearing and take the final action to sell. Is that right?
Yes, we actually have agreed upon terms, and we handle it by the commission telling me to sign. This is still a meeting. It's not a thing they're asking me to sign as a housekeeping at a public meeting now. It's just other than that, if we have to set it for agenda every change, because there's a lot of changes that go through.
Okay. I mean, that's fine, as long as it gets on them once there's an agreed upon terms, then it'd go to hearing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I won't put it on tomorrow then. We'll just wait to see what ends up happening after the study.
Are you comfortable with that, commissioners, or you want to go back to a situation where every change has to be on an agenda?
No, I think as long as we're briefed on them, I mean, if there is a change, I'm sure that we would have a briefing on them, so.
And I never sign anything without us briefing and you telling me to sign it. I just don't sign anything without that. Commissioner Shooty?
Yeah, I think probably, maybe a better way to handle it would be an annual reauthorization. I think that resolution having you sign is fairly old at this point.
I would agree.
And so I think probably taking a look at it annually would probably be sufficient, in particular as, transitions happen and that kind of thing. So I'm good with keeping the practice now, but probably by the end of the year and beginning of next year, we should take a look at that.
I agree. Let's have something set up so that it's done each year in case I'm not here also, so that it's done each year. Okay, anything further on that? What else you got, Frank?
Next item is an emergency management SHSP grant, Diane.
Good morning, and I think Tammy's on here to answer any questions, but it's a grant that we've had. So the Homeland Security Program. Tammy, do you want to explain what it's used for?
Sure. This is our Homeland Security Region 3, which is 5 counties. Every year we get an SHP grant, which is an equipment grant. And we utilize that. A certain percentage of it is required to go to law enforcement for terrorism prevention. This all stemmed from the 9/11 incident way back. And this year we have a grant. It's, let's see, I can do some video. The grant is for $17,176. And the projects that had been pre-approved for that were generation power for Central Mason and communication radios for our Mason County SORT team. I don't know what other questions you may have. We won't be able to purchase all of the requests, but we can at least get one generator and the radios based on the amount of funding that we did receive.
Are you, commissioners, in favor of putting it on the agenda and moving forward?
I am.
Absolutely, that's cool.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last item we have is a 2022 budget follow-up with Jennifer.
Thank you, Frank. Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
So the first page of the briefing that I put together is the general fund budget, the proposed budget as of October 4th, before we began any individual department budget workshops. The 2022 proposed budget at that time, the revenues were $61,734,781. And that consists of a beginning fund balance of $21,500,000 estimated, and total department revenues of $40,234,781. The salaries and benefits at that time were $29,274,376, and operating $12,407,294. Total ending fund balance was $20,053,111. And that's a total increase over 2021's adopted budget in the salaries and benefits of $574,649, and in operating $423,398. And that was a question that you had asked, Commissioner, last time.
For the
how much I had added.
So about $1 million.
Yeah, just under $1 million, so $998,047, and that's in the difference column there. If we go to the third page of the briefing, which is again the general fund, and I apologize, I had some of the headers wrong. I should have checked that a little bit better. The top, it says 2022 summary proposed budget, second draft, general fund, October 11th. And the date on the 2022 proposed budget should also say 10/11, not October 4th. So sorry about that confusion. And then on the variance column, those again should be 2022 versus 2021, not 2021 versus 2020. So anyway, just wanted to clarify that. The amounts that we added into the budget after the individual department budget workshops were in the salaries and benefits, $323,178 for a total of $897,827 over 2021's adopted budget. And then in the operating section, we added $533,243. You can see that that's a total of $956,641 over 2021's adopted budget. So the amount that we added during the budget workshops was a total of $856,421. And going back to the first page, I wanted to clarify some things in the budgeted FTEs. I still need to do some work on that. So a couple of things that I need clarification on, or that I wanted to point out. The HR, Human Resources Department, and Risk Management, they actually should have a total of 4 FTEs. On the 2022 proposed budget, it shows 5. And that's because we have the HR and risk manager and the HR administrator in the budget. So we need to put together a resolution to eliminate the HR and risk manager if that's the intent. So I wanted to clarify that, commissioners, that we can eliminate that position. Is that correct?
Commissioner, sorry, I'm gonna jump over to Commissioner Trask. During our discussions over the past 6 months, you've made mention that, and I think you were talking about some of this, that you wanted to wait until the new person was in place for the administrator before we made that decision. Is that still accurate? Am I saying it accurate? I'm trying to make sure that you get taken care of how you had hoped to be taken care of when you said it.
Yeah, I just think that this is a decision that we should include our new administrator in. Hopefully, I mean, this new person will be slammed with a ton of new information, but I think it's important that this decision is also reviewed by our new person.
And I think it was because that position would not be the head of HR anymore, so there should be further discussions on what may be needed underneath that to make it all work. Or Frank, is that what you remember also, or?
That is my recollection, yes.
Commissioner Shooting?
I agree.
So right now we're going to hold off until a little further down the line on the budget before we make that adjustment, Jennifer.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. If we go down to the prosecutor's office, their Department 180, their total FTE count should be 15 in the prosecutor's office, or in that Department 180. They have a total of 17 FTEs for their department, and they did some shuffling around and we added one in 2021. So they should have a total of 15 in the prosecutor, 1 in child support enforcement. And then if we go to the special funds, they have 1 in crime victims and now 0 in victim witness activity. So just wanted to point that out. I'll make that correction.
Is there a cost change?
There is not a cost change in here. There is in Department 185, there's an inflated salary amount because they have grant revenue that that they need salary to spend, but that FTE is allocated now in the actual prosecutor's office, Department 180, because it's not for sure funding, I think is, they won't always receive it. So we have to have those FTEs budgeted though, because they're full-time. So we have to have the expense if they expend it in Department 185. So it's basically a doubling up of about $50,000 of salary there. And one way to eliminate that problem is if we were to do away with Department 185 and put it all into Department 180 and have a program within the prosecutor's office for child support enforcement. I have talked to the prosecutor's office about that, but I think they need to see a picture of it and what that would look like before making that move or agreeing to make that move.
Well, and keeping it the way it is, that still lets us know for sure when, if that money does dry up, that it's a hit to the general fund and to pay attention to that addition, right?
I mean, either way, to me, it inflates the general fund expenditures in the budget. So it's really, it would be a more accurate picture if we did away with that department and put it into 180. I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for, I guess, and what your definition of accuracy is.
Would it still, if we were to move it over as you're requesting, would it still pop up as a flag if that funding stops?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't show in the revenue. So that would be a flag. The revenue would decrease overall in the prosecutor's office. So yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to segregate it by department, then yes, it's more noticeable. If we segregate it by department and then program, then it would still be just as noticeable.
Commissioner Shsp, were you any of this bringing about any conversation from you?
No, I guess, I mean, just whatever is kind of the simplest way to manage it on the back end, probably. I mean, if it takes a little while to get there, I guess with the prosecutor's office, then, that might be worth the effort. But I don't know, Jennifer, if you have, I mean, do we want to sit down with them and go through it? Or do you think it's okay to leave well enough alone at this point, and or kind of where's your head at?
I think at this point in time, for 2022, we should leave it as is. And if we're going to do it, maybe look at 2023.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay. I can go along with that. That makes sense. Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. So moving on to page 3 again, on the FTEs, we have one that we added in the auditor's office from the budget workshops. We have a 0.5 that we added in the clerk's office also from the budget workshops. And then we have one in support services that's not shown on this worksheet. So I'll make that correction. That's for the records management person or records specialist. So that's the 3.5 that we added. So I'll update that.
Where am I seeing that? 3.5 that you added.
So that would be in the budgeted FTEs, the difference column. The support services one is not in there though.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't find it because the numbers didn't jive. They jive enough now if I add that. Thank you.
Okay. Great. On the second page, the special funds, the amount that we had from October 4th before the budget workshops began was total revenues and total expenditures, $98,634,607. The total salaries were $13,103,462, and then total operating expenditures, which also includes their ending fund balances, $85,531,145. On the FTEs for Public Works, I figured out what the difference was. On county roads, they should have 61.2 FTEs because there was the question of the one from their budget workshop. Overall, they did have 92.3 FTEs in their 2021 budget. And that was because they had removed a utilities operator position from their 2021 budget. And then it got put back into their 2022 budget
Did they
So they-
remove it or not fill it?
They had
'Cause I
not
don't remember removing it.
not budgeted it. So I think in their minds, they had not filled it, but it was also not budgeted, which to me means that they removed it. So I wanted to ask and make sure that that's okay, that they're putting it back into their budget.
Yeah, we got to make sure if that's the case, that doesn't happen again, because you're right. If you take it out of the budget, how do we keep track of a bow wave?
Yeah, it does make it confusing. So right now it is sitting in their budget. So and they say they need it, and so I want to make sure that we're okay leaving it in.
How did we do that in the past? We kept the line item and just kept a zero in it, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I don't know that we've done that in the past for their department or any department.
I'm thinking years back in the sheriff's department, that's how we handled them. We would zero them out and keep it in there for the future, knowing that we're not doing away with it. We just agreed not to spend that money this year. That was years ago. So before you were sitting there, so sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. So yeah, they should have a total then of 93.3 FTEs, as long as you're okay with the utility FTE.
I think it's important to have that utility one. We found out what happened when we didn't. Commissioners? Commissioner Shsp?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds reasonable. I mean, on the county road position, I mean, let's make a note to have a conversation with them when they come back in for their updated budget workshop and just see how we address it with them individually. But yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, so what I remember is they had an issue with because of the shortages and stuff for that time, and to get control of remember we had some bad reviews, bad things happening. They had to move some of the stuff to management for a short time to gain control of it. That's what I remember, and that's why I remember we didn't fill at the time, I think. But go ahead.
Okay, so the computer replacement plan is not currently in any of these documents, but I will add it to the next budget update, which will be next week, probably Monday. I'll schedule with Diane. But the computer replacement plan for the general fund is $142,000 according to the plan that was presented on the 4th. But there's $3,000 of IT trackable equipment in the general fund for some of the departments. The clerk's office had $2,500 in IT trackable, and that was just carried over from their 2021 budget. I don't think there was anything specific, for that amount set aside. So I reduced their budget by that $2,500, and then in the district court they had $500, so a total of $3,000. And I wanted to make sure that that was the intent. So I added $139,000 total. And then same with Public Works had $8,000. They Public Works roads, and so they had $32,000 in computer replacement purchases, and so I reduced their addition to $24,000. So I just wanted to clarify that. And again, I'm just assuming that those are, what they had in there for $8,000 was to replace some of these old computers. So we can talk with them about that at their budget workshop. So that's a total of $201,000 that will be added into all the different departments for the computer replacement plan then, instead of $212,000 that was originally presented. The ARPA position that is on the agenda for tomorrow, I talked to some of our finance staff, and we're all in agreement that that position should be paid out of support services and then a transfer from ARPA Fund 155 into the general fund to fund that position. So I'll add that also into next week's presentation.
So that'll increase our revenues at the same time then?
Yes.
To offset it, okay.
Yeah, it'll offset. And the last thing I wanted to go over then was on the 4th page of the briefing. So at that time, after the budget workshops, the total in revenues was $99,010,862, and same with operating. So any questions on any of this at this time?
Commissioner Trask, any questions?
Nope, not right now.
Commissioner Shute?
None for me.
No, thank you again very much, Jennifer.
You're welcome. And Public Works, I have a meeting with them Wednesday to follow up on their budget. And they are going to get me their information by tomorrow so that I have time to look over it and make our Wednesday meeting more efficient.
And just so you know, from the conversations I've had, Jennifer, they're very, very, very appreciative of you. So I just wanted to, so are we actually, let's be honest. Especially in this situation. Thank you so much for the extra and stepping up, Jennifer.
Thank you. That's all that I have.
Okay, any questions for Jennifer before she's done there? All right, thank you, Jennifer. Frank?
You're welcome.
And that's all that we have, commissioners.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for support services?
Nope.
Please keep us in the loop on that property. That's pretty important. We know what's happening sooner rather than later on that.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So next up, do we have Frank, do we have an approximate time for the executive session?
I believe it was 10:45.
No, I meant how long we need, because we're going to be going into executive session. I need to give a time so we can come back. We'll keep this channel open. And
about 15 minutes.
Okay, so we will return at 11 o'clock. We'll keep this one open. We are going into executive session in regards to potential litigation, RCW 42.30.1101I. We intend to return at 11 o'clock, and I will come on if we need extra time and let you know. So with that being said, I'm going to sign in with my other phone, and I'm going to leave this one now. And Mackenzie, you're going to keep this one open, I assume, right?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay. I'll see everybody at the executive session. We'll return at 11 o'clock.